Hi, Mermaid Junkies. How are you? I hope you're doing good. I'm in such a good mood today. I just had a great jog. So anyway, I thought that I would shoot this video, and it is going to be 3 to 5 steps. I'm not quite sure. I'm just kind of winging it about alignment and that connection to your inner being and what that means. So I got a question from one of my subscribers that I love, and they asked how to stay in alignment and to feel connected with their inner guidance system or source or God, and that they felt so good about it for most of the day, but then they wanted to know why it left them and they didn't feel that sense of happiness and joy throughout, constantly, consistently, and how we are able to do that. So I wanted to talk about a couple of things pertaining to alignment. So the number one thing is that I think we have this illusion that because we're spiritual beings that we have this sense of we never have difficulties, or we never have moments of, like Christians call it, trials and tribulations. And I like to say that the universe allows us through, because we're human and we're having this in this time space continuum of contrasting moments, because how would we know what we really want if we don't know what we do want? Does that make any sense? Like, if I didn't know loneliness, how would I know what it feels like to have that comfort and inner guidance system feeling like it's enveloping me? Unless I had that sense of loneliness. And I'm shooting another video too. It's all about loneliness and what that emotion really is telling us. So if you want to subscribe to my channel, if you're not a subscriber, that'll be up again, not again, but that will be up probably tomorrow or Saturday. So I'll let you know. If you follow me on any of my social media, that's awesome. So anyway, so back to the question that was posed, is that for one thing, it's impossible for us to always stay in alignment with Source. Just because we're here, we're mortals, we're humans having this earthly experience, and we're spiritual beings always, but we're having this mortality of an experience in a body. And so in order for us to expand, we have to be able to have those contrasting moments. Now, we don't have to be like most people, because a lot of people have this huge belief that, if you're spiritual, you're never supposed to have contrasting moments. And that's just simply not true. But I will say this, is that when you have those contrasting moments, like just 2 days ago, I had a very contrasting moment. And once you learn to focus, because that's number 2, is when you learn to focus your attention on being in alignment for the most of the time, because it is possible to do it on a large degree and stay in that, it's a learned belief, and you can do it. It just takes a little bit of practice, to keep your focus and to always be mindful of your thoughts, because your thoughts create your reality. And so because our lives are based on law of attraction, like attracts like, or universal laws, you get what you put out. So if you're thinking negative things all day, you're going to keep getting negative stuff in your life. But if you're thinking positive things all of the time, or for most of the time, you're going to have beautiful, positive things happening in your life, and you're going to feel a lot of joy, because you've learned to focus your attention and focus your thoughts and have control over your thoughts, because it's the only thing you can have control over is your thoughts and emotions. And that's a two-sided, there's, a division there, because I really want to get into depth about, and I think I did one video one time about what emotions really are, because they're completely different than dealing with your alignment, if that makes any sense. Well, sort of, I don't know. Not really, I don't know. Maybe you should just scratch that. But what I'm saying is your thoughts create your reality. So if your thoughts are projected in a particular way, on a certain wavelength, if you want to use, mermaid methodology, you're going to be in that momentum of positive things. But like I said, if you have these emotions and you allow the emotion to get out of hand, the momentum is going to pick up and carry everything. Have you ever noticed that? Like, you'll be going along your day and you're feeling really good. Maybe you had a really good jog. Like I just said, I had a really good jog and I meditated. That's another thing. Are you guys meditating? Every day. You should at least do it 15 minutes a day. If you'd love to see a video on that, I would love to share a video with that and just how I meditate. And if you're focused on your thoughts and where your thoughts lead, because your thoughts create your reality, then you're going to stay on that momentum. Now, so going back to my friend's question, which was, how do I stay in alignment all the time, or how do I stay feeling good like that? It's really about learning and practicing on staying in alignment as far as where your thoughts going. So one thing I like to do to help me, well, my biggest thing is that I meditate every day. And it's so important. And it's almost like you become addicted to meditating, because it's your mind becoming absent of thought whatsoever. And so when that happens, there's no resistance in your life. I mean, in your thought process at that moment, because you're not thinking about anything. And so what happens is you're able to elevate your frequency and your consciousness with source. And so it's very pure energy and there's no resistance whatsoever. And so that's kind of like when you're sleeping too. You're on the path of least resistance. Like all of that, frustration and everything kind of dies out. Now, if you think about it, if you start thinking about that momentum again when you wake up the next day, of course it's going to go right back. I mean, you might not make it till breakfast. But if you can learn to train your thoughts and like maybe even meditate before you go to bed, lay in your bed and enjoy the surroundings, the quietness. A lot of times I will listen to soothing things that will make me go to sleep so that I'm in alignment when I go to sleep. Because have you ever noticed that? Like, I went to bed and I was in a pissy mood, and then I woke up and I was in a pissy mood again. It's because the momentum picks right back up. You were good when you were sleeping because there was no resistance to you. But then when you woke up, your thought pattern, you probably started thinking about what you were thinking about right before you went to bed. Have you ever noticed that? Or it will even seep into your dreams. And so that will start manifesting in your dreams as well. So those are a couple of things that might help you. And the one thing that I just really would love to really stress to you guys is that we don't have to, it would be nice to be, in alignment 24/7. But that's not why we're in our bodies. We're not in our bodies to do that. And you wouldn't expand and grow if you never had contrasting moments. The way that you can conquer this sense of feeling like that contrast is a bad thing is that to learn and create a new belief system about what you believe God, source, or the universe is to you and your inner being. Because I think a lot of times people actually, and it comes from probably a religious background, and I'm not sure with each individual, each one of you guys are different. Everybody has their own story. But for my personal journey is that I had to redefine the belief system that I had about what God was to me. Because my entire life of growing up, I grew up to believe, and my belief system was that God was this entity that had come to earth and had proven himself in some way, and he became a god because he did everything right, and he's above and we're peons down here and we don't matter, and we're trying to reach this expectancy of his approval for us. And for my personal journey, I no longer have that belief system, because he's not up in heaven dangling his feet on this cloud and like, you're damned to, hell and, all that kind of stuff. And my personal journey, I do not believe that way anymore. And it has been absolutely liberating to me, freeing. And I have this sense of just this sense of awness about my inner guidance system, God, because God is a part of us, Source is a part of us, and we never left that. And so consciousness is really in our own mind of what we've created. And I think that it really helps people. I'll just speak for myself again, is that when I was able to really believe that way about what Source and God was to me, it helped me to realize that we were like on the same team. Like God doesn't judge us. Source doesn't judge you for where you are in life. He's actually, or they, consciousness, is very happy with where you are right now. You're never in judgment of Source. And I always want to say he, because that's kind of like a habit that I have, but Source can be anything you want it to. It can be 3 women if you want, you know what I mean? Your consciousness. And so I think what it is that it relieved a sense of feeling like defeatism. And it made me feel like Source always has my back. Source always wants the best for me and for my inner being, and that I'm never being judged, and I'm never wrong for how I'm feeling. I'm never judged ever. And so it really makes you feel like, well, if Source loves me and I love me, and I can do no wrong because Source always loves me, I will never not be able to have Source's love from for myself. And so you're always accepted, and there's such a warm, enveloping feeling with that, like just a cuddly little blanket, because it's like we don't have to fear hell and damnation. And that's just for my personal journey. Now, I'm not saying that you can't believe any way that you want, but I did come from a very, very religious background. I was first Pentecostal my entire life until I was probably 15, I think. And then I became a Mormon, an LDS Mormon, and I was that way until probably 4 years ago. And have you ever felt like this? And maybe you can relate to me too, is that have you ever felt like, I used to always feel like some things just don't make sense. Like, as much as you feel like you have the truth, like there's still some things that are like, but that just doesn't make sense. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that particular principle, and it doesn't make sense. I can't make sense of it. And so I think for me, that was the religious part of myself, that I was like, I was a very, very religious person, like never smoked a cigarette, never drank a drop of alcohol. Barely ever cursed. And, and I'm not saying that it's like, oh, when I no longer was religious, I just decided to just do this and this and this and this and this, because I still am very, very spiritual. I'm just not religious. And there's a difference between those two, And so however you decide to combine those two, if you still desire and that's working for you and that is serving you, I think that's beautiful. And I think that's wonderful. And I think that's the other beautiful thing about spirituality and understanding that Source loves you no matter what. And Source loves every person to the fullest. And I think that that's a very difficult thing for a human to wrap their mind around, is that you can do no wrong. Source loves you always, is holding you there to that frequency. And, sometimes it takes, it's like water. Think of this, and this is kind of how I look at spirit, how I look at Source, is that say that there's a rock in water, and the water is source, okay? And we're the rock. Now, if we're the rock and we're not moving and we're being immovable, right? Say for instance, we have a certain belief or something that we haven't been able to work through yet, right? Source is like the water. It makes a new way. It doesn't try to root out the rock and move it and, squish it to the ground and kill it, right? The water just makes its way around it and creates a new path. And that's kind of what the Spirit does with us. That's what Source does with us, is he just moves around. Like, okay, Raquel's having a really hard time with this particular principle. And so she believes this way. And he's not going to come to me. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to come down to my frequency because I'm having this horrible feeling of emotion. Because that's what our emotions are telling us, is that when you feel a certain way and you're having an emotion and it feels horrible, right? It's like, say you're completely and utterly angry. Maybe you found out something and you were just beside yourself with just anger and hate, like you're just freaking out. Well, the main reason that you're freaking out is because that emotion is telling you that Source is looking at that same exact thing that you're angry about with a difference of opinion. Source isn't looking at that particular thing that you're looking at in the same way. That's why you feel so angry and upset, because that's not what your inner being is really telling you. That's not the belief, and that's not the way it really is. Source is not seeing that particular situation the way that you're seeing it in that moment. And so it feels horrible to us because they won't come down to our frequency because we're not in alignment. So we're going to have to work ourselves out of that and get and reach to the alignment of Source in our inner being. And that's when we start to feel good again. And so I hope this made sense. I kind of rambled, but you know me, ramble all the time. This is going to be the last time that I ask for forgiveness for rambling, because look at my hair is all winged out, isn't it? I hope the lighting's good in here. But anyway, I hope that served you. I hope that helped a little bit. And if it didn't, leave a comment below. And if you have another question, I would be happy to try and answer it for you if I can, and use my own life experiences. And as always, I'm yours until my next swim. Ciao.